On December 23, 2004, Celeste Brown and Joshua Furr went on a date. Afterward, Brown's car alarm went off when she returned to her vehicle, which drew the attention of a nearby truck. As Furr and Brown drove to her parents' house, they noticed the truck appeared to be following them. To confirm this, Furr made several unnecessary turns, which the truck matched. When they arrived at Brown's parents' house, the truck passed by, turned around, and returned. Furr approached the truck to explain, but the driver, later identified as the defendant, became aggressive, repeatedly asking if Furr had a problem and suggesting a fight. The defendant exited the truck with a rifle and demanded Furr's vehicle. Furr offered it to avoid violence. As Brown tried to call for help, the defendant threatened her. Furr took away the phone to de-escalate, and the defendant backed off, returned to his truck, and drove away. Furr and Brown ran inside and called the police. The defendant was arrested later that evening, and a loaded rifle was found in his truck. Furr testified he feared for his life. The defendant did not testify. He was convicted of attempted armed robbery. Due to prior felony convictions, he was adjudicated as a third felony habitual offender. The trial court sentenced him to 40 years of hard labor without the benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence. But here we are. He's up for parole. Let's take a look.
According to our records, you're a second-class offender. You're currently serving a 43-year sentence, well, 9 months and 20 days. For armed robbery, you were actually on supervision and you were revoked. You had a parole eligibility date last December 4th, 2024. Your adjusted good time date is 4/25/2039, and you have a full term date of 10/12/2048. Does that sound correct?
Yes, ma'am.
If I may, it's attempted armed robbery. I know sometimes it doesn't show up in the record that way.
And you would be Ms. Hutchinson, his attorney, and yes, thank you. It is attempted, and I do see that. Also, with Ms. Hutchinson, we have Mr. Kerry Myers of the Parole Project, who's in support today. We do have a victim who is here present and will speak at the appropriate. At this point, I would like to ask Warden Turner, do you have any information about this offender and anything that we need to know?
Yes, ma'am. He's done some good things for us since he's been here. We received him in 2019. He's remained right up free for the last 6 years. He's one of our certified mentors here. He does a great job with that. He's earned a degree from Ashland, and he's also completed his victims impact. So he's a very respectful young man. He's done some great things.
Thank you for that input. I have identified everyone I have a record of. I do see individuals there in the room. Would they like to be identified as or speak?
Madam Chairman, we'll give them an opportunity to introduce themselves just for the record.
Via Dalton, and I'm his daughter. Kristen Dalton, and I'm his wife.
Drusilla Dalton, I'm his mother.
Thank you,
And
Mary.
Madam Chairman, I believe one of them is speaking, the gentlelady in the middle.
Okay, great. Very much. Well, at this time, Ms. Hutchinson, would you like to reserve the last word?
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll start off by asking you, Mr. Dalton, what it is that brought you to prison, and why at this time do you think we should consider release?
I'm in prison for attempted armed robbery, December 3rd, 2004. While coming back from Baton Rouge into Zachary, I saw Mr. Furr. I first recognized his truck, and we was headed in the same direction at the time. And when I saw the truck, it reminded me of someone that the girl I was dating during my previous incarceration had been in a relationship with. We continued on our way, and we got to an intersection. He made a right, and towards that right, that was the way that she lived. When I recognized that, when he made the right, I followed behind him. He made a right into the neighborhood. I followed behind him. and he went down the street. Then I stopped and I called her. She didn't answer the phone. When later on, after riding, I finally caught up with him. One of the guys in the vehicle was like, somebody's throwing his hands up. I turned around and stopped. And I was approached by Mrs. Brown at that time. Mrs. Brown was very respectful, very cordial. She was hospitable. And at that time, I could admit it, like, this was a misidentity. When I seen the individual, it wasn't the guy who I thought he was. But I didn't want the guys who I was with to think I was, know the real reason why I was following them. So I became confrontational. I directed all my attention to Mr. Fur, and I jumped out the vehicle and asked him if he wanted to fight. He told me he didn't want to fight. He asked me why I was following him, and I denied that I was following him. He asked me what I wanted from him. I said I didn't want anything from him. And we went back and forth with that. And I got mad, and I asked him, "You asked me that one more time," and he did. I went to the vehicle and I pulled my gun, and I pointed my gun at him. And I asked him, "Now ask me that one more time." And he did. And he said, "You can have whatever you want." And I said, "I want your truck." And he said, "The keys are in it." I walked towards this vehicle and I yelled back at the guys and I said, "Y'all gonna help me?" And they all just laughed. And at that time, Mrs. Brown started calling for her dad. And I just want to say I had no right to do that and put those young adults and the young man and that woman in that position. But after that I left the scene, I got in my vehicle and I drove off.
And
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Since I've been incarcerated for 21 years, I've grown a lot. But I have to apologize for the fear, the impact, the emotional harm that I caused Mr. Brown and Mrs. Fur that night. The impact I had on their families as well as their community. But I see here before you as a different human being, a more mature human being. I come to terms that I didn't like the individual I was. So I had to do a real self-assessment to understand, like, how could I ever put two innocent people in such a position? I had to change my way of thinking. I had to understand, like, how could I be a person that did such a shameful act? So I educated myself. I had to challenge my way of thinking because I was thinking irrationally. And then I had to think, I thought a lot about my daughter. Because at that time, my wife was 4 months pregnant. And I didn't take into consideration my actions, not only towards them, but towards my victim.
okay, so you also had an attempted second-degree murder charge. Is that correct?
Especially after the fact, yes, ma'am.
But that's not what you were discussing, or that is the attempted second-degree murder. Yeah.
No, ma'am, I'm sorry, that was attempted armed robbery.
Okay, so what about the attempted second-degree murder?
The accessory after the fact to attempted, accessory after the fact to
Accessory after the fact.
the second degree murder. I'm sorry. I was, after the crime had happened, it was a guy that shot someone, and I made a lie and I made a 911 call, and I reported my car stolen to try to cover what had happened, because I didn't want anything to do with that.
At this time, we'll allow, Miss Dalton, your wife, wants to speak, and, we'll let her have her say.
Hello, my name is Christy Dalton and I am Marquis's wife. We've been married for 17 years and I've known him for 28 years. And we have a 20-year-old daughter who is going into her third year at Southern University, majoring in nursing. And since Marquis has been in prison, he's taken full accountability of his actions that have led him there, and not taking lightly of the victims that were involved in his reason for being incarcerated. And so again, he's grown tremendously in taking accountability, taking classes and courses that have been offered. He's taken counseling, mental health awareness courses, financial literacy. He's taken welding, paralegal studies. He's also been enrolled in their air conditioner and HVAC courses. And he also served as a GED tutor and also is helping others to learn literacy program, helping others to learn how to read. He has been mentoring to help others gain both their academic and life skills. He's also become a spiritual leader. He is the imam here at the facility. He's a practicing Muslim. He serves as the imam at the facility. He leads prayer, offers guidance, and he helps others again with living within their faith and discipline. And through this institution, their mentor-mentee program, he also helps and supports the others in making better decisions and understanding real world consequences for their actions and making sure that they understand how not to, they do leave, they don't come back and don't make the same mistakes that he's made.
Right.
He's also maintained clear.
Okay. Oh, I thought you were finished.
He's maintained a clean disciplinary record since being here at Hunt, and he has basically maintained not just doing this for show, but actually this is his life and wanting to model and make sure that he's not just he is the person that he genuinely is the person that you see in front of you. He's not he lives the life of discipline, integrity, and responsibility and ownership of his behavior and the consequences that they cause.
Yeah, we've read a lot of that. I appreciate those comments. I'm going to go ahead and go to Mr. Kerry Myers with the Parole Project.
Good morning, Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project here to let this board know we have accepted Mr. Dalton as a client. And for the reasons I think you may have already seen, it's not just words that he's spoken to you today. He's held himself to a higher standard. He holds the people around him to a higher standard. He has a family that he also recognizes he has to have that higher standard. His programming, his disciplinary record have all been exceptional. Parole Project, because of his lengthy incarceration, is here to provide him with the transitional services that he needs. We are prepared to work with him for as long as necessary. Matter of fact, we actually plan to work with him in an extended period of time to make sure he is ready to move back into society. When he completes our program, he is highly employable. Our employment team will work with him if needed, but he already has employment opportunities waiting for him. We understand that the length of time his incarceration will have some particularly relevant things that he needs to learn in our program, and we are prepared to help him. He'll be evaluated by our social workers. He'll go through the programming. He'll understand what it takes technology, financial literacy, social norms, workplace protocols. Those are the things that we'll be able to offer him. But Mr. Dalton has done the hard work. What you see is before you is who he is, and we would just ask this board to consider those things in granting him his parole today.
Yeah, Ms. Hutchinson, would you like to wrap up for Mr. Dalton?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, committee, for taking your time to hear us today. You've received a comprehensive parole packet from me that introduces you to the Marquis of today, the man that I've come to know and represent. So I don't plan on going through that packet with you right now, but instead, I'd like to maybe address some concerns I think the committee may have and what we've done with that. And so if I could, I'd like to describe Marquis's life in two distinct halves. The first half being the last 20 years and the other half being the 20 years prior to that. The first half, I'm sure you guys have documented in front of you in his record. That version of Marquis had arrests, misdemeanors, felonies, one poor decision after another, none of which we're skirting around. Even the impending birth of his child, of his daughter, like he talked about, didn't really deter him from the longing to fit in or masking his insecurities with this tough guy persona, seeking validation from people who ultimately didn't matter. And Marquis was failing. With the first charge that you brought up earlier, he did enter prison and do about 5 years on that term. But he didn't focus on rehabilitation or education. He merely did the time and was paroled. It's the difference between the first half 20 and the second half 20. So again, he got out and he failed. He caused a great trauma and harm to those two young people in a way that even at the time of the crime, he failed to really even understand the magnitude of his crime. But the Marquis that's before you today, this Marquis of the last 20 years is quite different. And he's driven by two words: purpose and discipline. And I don't want to start with my own words. If you look in exhibits 15 of my packet, you'll see a letter of appreciation from various deputy wardens, program directors, and the warden of Elaine Hunt at the time that recognized Marquis as a person who has dedicated an extraordinary amount of time to helping others rehabilitate. In that letter, they called his mentorship a living testament to the value and hope that comes from true transformation. And this is the staff that sees Marquis every day. There's a 2024 recognition letter, character letter, again signed by institutional leaders that called Marquis the driving force behind the success of multiple rehabilitative efforts. And in the October 2024 letter from, I believe it was a social worker or counselor here, that talked about Marquis being a well-respected mentor and how he advocated for help introduce and help co-facilitate a program called Getting Ahead in a Just Getting By world, because he saw fit to have that class in the institution and he wanted to see it here. You'll also see in Exhibit 13 a letter from Mr. Grove, a Toastmaster, that talks about the same initiative that Marquis took to get a Toastmasters class chartered here. And Toastmasters for individuals is not just about making oral arguments. It's an instrument that can be used to help people articulate themselves and de-escalate situations with words, something that Marquis couldn't do then. Those of you who are familiar with Marquis's sentencing transcripts can recall a young man that struggled to articulate himself and couldn't even explain to Judge Marabella at the time the root of his anger. Today he's educated and has programming and in leadership, and he's learned how to speak effectively. He can de-escalate conflicts and lead with emotional intelligence. He's been chosen by the institution to take part in public-facing programs like the Frederick Douglass Project. So he's been able to interact with legislators, citizens, church congregations, showing them what transformation looks like. Kerry said it. I think the staff here have said it, like, he has truly done the work. You have in front of you a thoughtful and intentional reentry plan, as Kerry stated. Marquis would be with us for as long as you all deem necessary, because he does want to gradually reintegrate with his family, and reconnect. I think the board knows from your other hearings, like revocation hearings, that the transition from incarceration to cohabitation after decades apart can be difficult. And so Marquis understood that, and that's why both him and his wife wanted to go through counseling before they got back in the home together, so that there would be a healthy adjustment. And I think that also speaks to his maturity. As Kerry said, Mr. Lacy, whose letter is in Exhibit 13, offered Marquis an apprenticeship with HVAC, and also LPP, and our letter provided two second chance employers within his area of expertise that he would be able to work in.
Nice.
If I could, just to close out, I do understand that the board has to also weigh the time served versus the sentencing. I would like the board to know that while Marquis has a 40-year sentence for the attempted robbery and a 10-year sentence for the possession of a firearm as a felon that ran concurrent, it puts him right at about 50% of his time. However, Marquis has served 100% of the time that the state offered him a plea deal. So at the time of trial, the state felt that a 20-year sentence was sufficient for the crime that he committed. Marquis obviously decided to go to trial, and because of the habitual offender statute, he had an increase in his sentencing. But I do want the board to recognize that the state did believe that 20 years was enough for Marquis, and if we take that into consideration, he has completed 100% of that time. He is a mentor in RDAP and has passionately worked with other programming. I put in that packet an actual weekly schedule just to see how much work Marquis does within the prison system. We are prepared to accept with any conditions and guidelines that this board sees fit, and we just ask that you see the difference, the profound demonstrated difference between Marquis of the past and Marquis today. Thank you.
We do all that information in our packet, 260 pages. So at this time, we're going to allow Ms. Jasmine Matthews an opportunity to speak to the panel. Please state your name and your relationship to the case.
So my name is Jasmine Matthews. I am the daughter of Oscar Whitney, the accessory to the second-degree murder. After hearing everything that Mr. Marquis and his attorney spoke about, I don't have any ill intention towards him. I know he was accessory to that murder, but at the end of the day, I do believe he has changed. I just want him to know that even though you wasn't the person who actually did it, it still impacted me. And I do have a lot of questions because nobody really knows what happened. And I do understand that he has a daughter. At the end of the day, I'm a daughter who lost her dad at 3 years old. I can't get that back. But I do believe in second chances. I do want him to have that, that bond with his daughter that he missed out on. So I do forgive him for being a part of that. And I think my understanding for that is just because I am a criminal justice major. I am getting my master's in criminal justice, so I know the ins and outs of the system. So I do appreciate him even, acknowledging the fact that he told a lie and he owned up to it and he did do the work in prison. So I can't fault him at that, but I do have questions. If he is granted parole today, I do want to speak with him, if that is okay. And I do appreciate him, apologizing for, what he's done and how he tried to make an impact in our community and things like that. So
Gentlemen, you've been very brave and gracious today. Thank you for
Yeah.
being here. As far as the communication goes, I'm going to allow our victims group to moderate that decision. So, Ms. Hutchinson, you always do a very good job preparing. I would say that I really think the change started in 2017 for him. I think that's when he may have turned the curve in my review of his file. When he started getting serious about his programming. And there is a lot to consider. Do my colleagues have any questions?
I do. First off, why did you come to hunt? Why did they send you to hunt?
I came to hunt from the police barracks. I had received a write-up for an unauthorized visit.
Okay. All right, and
Unauthorized one.
visit,
Okay.
okay? And just, I mean, I'm kind of like, the daughter said, I'm a little confused. You called in and said somebody stole your car. How was that an accessory? How were you trying to cover up or help out whoever had committed the murder?
Because by me calling in that the car was stolen and that I didn't admit what had happened. I didn't tell the truth that it was a lie. The car wasn't stolen. It was my car. And by me not being upfront with them, I contributed to him getting away or trying to him getting away and not being accountable, I guess, for his actions. So I contributed to that. I lied.
Okay, and I do want to acknowledge you have done a lot, and I'm looking at the report that was sent in by your attorney, and you've done a lot of classes since your other hearing, and appreciate you putting in the hard work. And once again, I also want to thank the victim for those brave words.
And Mr. Bonner.
I too have questions about that attempted second degree murder because I'm reading in the pre-parole investigation and it says that you were actually shooting. What really happened that day?
It goes to the day of the young man's trial. I had already received my sentence, and my cousin had already received our sentence for accessory after the fact. The lawyers came in, we was in the bullpen, they came in the bullpen, and they was like, you need to help him out. They said that I want to make sure I tell you the truth. And they said they asked me to say that I had shot out the T-tops. I said, sir, I didn't do that. I'm not going to say that. It was my cousin's friend. So my cousin said, well, I'll say it if it's okay with him. They was like, it'll help him out. You know, y'all, it's not going to come back and haunt y'all. But I told him I would not say that. I'm not going to admit to something I didn't do. And so my cousin made that statement at trial. I didn't, but I did not shoot out those T-tops, sir. And I just want to say I apologize to that victim. I apologize for that scene ever happened, not being responsible. Not because that was my car, and I should have been brave enough to say, but I was passed out. That was my irresponsible. I wish I could have been more brave to stand up and say something. I was the coward in that situation for not being willing to stand up for what was right. And I apologize. I apologize for that.
You're telling me about what happened at the courthouse. What
Yes,
happened on the street? What did you know? What did you see? It was more than just reporting the car stolen. It says you were in the car.
Yes, sir. Oh, I'm sorry.
Y'all ran across the guy on the airline highway. Y'all followed him around a couple of times during the day. Go from that part. How did it all end up after that?
Oh, I apologize. Thank you, sir, for explaining that. Earlier that day, we went to a gas station. Me and my cousin, we went to the gas station. That's when we found his friend and another guy, they was in another car. He went into the store and bought us something to drink. My cousin went in the store and bought us something to drink. They was acting like, where we going? We're going to a club. They followed behind us, paused right there. They had got into it with him at the store. I stayed in the car. I don't know the transaction that happened between them in the store. We drove to the club, spent some time at the club. Later on that night, the guy that's driving the other car was like, I'm about to go home. I gotta get off of work in the morning. Would you drop him off? He got in the car, we rode around, we drinking. I pass out in the front seat. I'm sleeping in the front seat. Next thing I remember, they wake me up. He wakes me up and he tells me, man, I think I shot somebody. I like, what? We flee the scene. We're behind the mall of Louisiana. I mean, the mall, I forgot the name of the neighborhood. And we come to a place where you can't go forward, a barricade. And we all get out and run. And that's when I go when I get to a resident, I make a phone call and reported the car stolen.
All right, that fills in some gaps. Thank you.
Panel prepared to vote?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Dalton, my vote today is to grant parole to the Parole Project to follow their guidelines for the length of time that it takes to make you an acceptable risk for reentry in the home. And I don't have any additional conditions than the standard 21. Mr. Freeman.
Okay, it's gonna be the same, but I'm requiring that you stay at the parole project a minimum of 1 year. I want him at that parole project, learning what's going on. Him and his wife can work on their relationship. They hadn't been around each other for a long time. And if he ever wants to meet with the victim, then he can arrange that through our victim coordinator. So that's my vote today. I'm sure the parole project will do drug screens and stuff of that nature. So that's all my condition, that you stay there 1 year.
And Mr. Bowman.
I'm gonna go ahead and concur with my colleague for the same reason.
Mr. Dalton, your request for parole has been granted with conditions that you go to the parole project and have elevated drug screens. That concludes our hearing for Mr. Dalton.
Let me know what you think about this case in the comments below. And if you like this video, please hit subscribe for new videos every week.